Now, after the release of the Galaxy S23 Ultra, many of us have been concerned as to whether or not we should get that or the Pixel 7 Pro. And in this video, I wanted to break down what each phone was good at based on various stages of use so that you guys can get an idea of which phone is actually right for you. Now, the Galaxy S23 Ultra and Pixel 7 Pro are two phones that have a lot in common while also having many differences that make each of them stand out. Both have a really smooth software with Android 13. Both have top tier displays that are smooth and filled with vibrance. Both have really good batteries that can last you all day even with heavy use. And both give you an amazing experience when it comes to overall performance. And even looking at them from an individual standpoint, there are some things that each phone was better at. The Pixel 7 Pro has a smoother feel, arguably has the best camera in the game, and is priced much cheaper than most flagships. And the S23 Ultra had many valuable advantages as well. It has more features all across the board, it has a signature S Pen, and it has the best display that I've ever seen on any phone. So even though both of these phones have many things that were good, they both had their downsides when it came to many different things, and we will be taking a look into what each has to offer so it can help you make a decision on which one is actually worth it. So I will be comparing the S23 Ultra and Pixel 7 Pro based on 5 different categories, starting with display, battery, software, speakers, and last but not least, cameras. But before I do that, I want to give a huge shout out to my partners, Whatnot. Now, Whatnot is a live stream auction app where you can get the best deals on everyday electronics like phones, tablets, and more. Sellers host live streams and people bid back and forth for items in real time. And mind you, there are no restriction times. There are live streams on Whatnot 24/7, and Whatnot is the future of online shopping. You have a chance to get deals on AirPods, iPhones, and more every day, with a lot of auctions starting at $1. And I'm someone who is an avid Pokemon card collector, and Whatnot is the perfect app where I can enter giveaways and buy rare cards for cheap. And you'll get $10 credit when you click on my link and download the app. The link will also be down in the description and comment section of today's video. And again, I want to thank Whatnot for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Now, looking at display, the Galaxy S23 Ultra has a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display, and the Pixel 7 Pro has a 6.7-inch LTPO AMOLED display, and I must say that both are very impressive. The combination of brightness, resolution, color, and sharpness makes each of them stand out as top-tier displays. Whenever I was scrolling through the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro, it looked very nice, everything looked good, the responsiveness was very precise, and I had no complaints about the overall feel on both phones. But I will say that in terms of sharpness and speed, the S23 Ultra wins due to the Pixel having slower animations. Now, the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro have a 120Hz refresh rate. Scrolling through the OS and many different apps felt as smooth as ever, and when comparing each phone's refresh rate, I will say that it's personal preference. If you want a smoother, more easygoing feel, the 7 Pro wins, but if you want that very quick and snappy smooth feel, the S23 Ultra wins. Both phones can also drop down to a lower refresh rate whenever they need to preserve battery life, so if you're someone who wants that extra battery life and doesn't really care about 120 at all, both phones do support this function. Now, both the 7 Pro and S23 Ultra's bezels are extremely small. Right here, you can see that they're wrapped nicely around the screen and are very clean. The S23 Ultra's bezels are definitely a little bit more slim, even though both phones have a curved screen. And the S23 Ultra still had a more refined look, so you'll get much more screen real estate. And now when it comes to brightness, the S23 Ultra is at 1750 nits, which is much better than the 7 Pro. And another thing that I peeped was that the S23 Ultra's whites were more rich as well, and the colors had more vibrance. And now when it comes to facial recognition, both the 7 Pro and S23 Ultra were okay at best. With both phones, there were many times where it would be slow or couldn't scan my face, but the S23 Ultra is better since it actually works better at night. And when it comes to the fingerprint sensor, the 7 Pro and S23 Ultra were very identical. They both were pretty fast and precise, so when it comes to this category, you really can't go wrong with either. Now, the resolution and viewing experience of the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro's display is an amazing benefit when it comes to consuming media and playing games. Gaming was something that I did a ton of when using both phones, and I will say that when it comes to looks, the S23 Ultra has slightly better graphics. It handled games with a little less lag, but to be honest, both phones are damn near even when it comes to gaming, so you really can't go wrong with either. And I was also able to see everything very clearly when watching videos. I preferred the S23 Ultra since it had a bigger screen and a boxier frame, but that's just my personal preference, and I wanted to give you guys an idea of what both phones look like when watching something and playing the game.
Take over. Here's Prescott. Pressure again. Steps in, just throws it deep as far as his arm can take him. Looking for Hilton. Oh, he caught it!
Now remember when I said that the S23 Ultra had more features? Well, the S Pen is a software and hardware addition that's pretty damn good. The responsiveness and palm rejection is great. It has many cool features, and it can be helpful whenever I'm signing contracts on my phone, but if I'm being honest, I really don't use it on a daily, and many can do without it, so based on my personal preference, I wouldn't say that it gives the S23 Ultra a leg up because, again, it's kind of gimmicky. Now, the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro have a 5000 mAh battery, and yes, they are very similar on the spec sheet, and yes, they both were able to give me all day battery life, but if I'm being honest, the S23 Ultra's battery is definitely a little bit better. And mind you, I'm the type of person who is usually on my phone all day doing things like writing scripts, playing B-roll, shooting videos, scrolling through social media, watching YouTube videos, and many other things that result in high usage. And I'm usually getting over 8 hours of screen time a day on my S23 Ultra and about 6 to 7 hours on my 7 Pro. And I only charge both phones when I go to sleep. I don't cut any corners. I always have 5G on, no auto brightness. I maxed out the resolution, and I never used power saving mode, so I was extremely impressed with both. And even when I was gaming, the battery hurt the 7 Pro a little more. And something that I did admire about the S23 Ultra was that no matter what I would do on it, I was always getting over a day of battery life. And if I could give you guys a quick estimate, I would say that my battery on the S23 Ultra is about 10 to 20% more when compared to my 7 Pro's battery. But if you want a battery that will last you all day, you really can't go wrong with either. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on when it came to the battery was the charging. I used my 45 watt fast charger for my S23 Ultra and a 30 watt charger for my 7 Pro. And I was able to charge from 0 to 100% in under an hour with the S23 Ultra. And with the 7 Pro, it would take a little longer, but they both didn't have me waiting too long. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you forgot to charge your phone, by the time you get done showering or running an errand, both phones will definitely be over 70%, which is really good. Now, looking at software, both the S23 Ultra and Pixel 7 Pro support Android 13. The S23 Ultra is also supported by One UI, while the 7 Pro is stock Android. And so far, in terms of smoothness and features, the S23 Ultra is definitely winning. But I will admit that when it comes to software, it's genuinely personal preference. The Pixel has a buttery smooth feel with a nice simplistic style, and the S23 Ultra has more features, more customization, and a more advanced feel. Some people love simplicity, some people love more freedom and features, and I personally love what each has to offer, but if I'm going based on my opinion, I would say that I like more features. Now, the always on display on the S23 Ultra was much more customizable than the 7 Pro. I liked using social media and voice assistant on my Pixel more. I like answering emails and anything business related on my S23 Ultra. And I love the different built-in apps that each of them had to offer. And in terms of software sleekness, the S23 Ultra was the clear winner. Samsung phones are typically very sharp when it comes to optimizing software. Pixel phones are very sharp as well, but you can really feel that Samsung has honed their craft when it comes to performance on a flagship phone. Now, I also decided to test out some games on the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro. I play Asphalt 9, which is a game that can really test out the chip, and as you can see, both held up really well, and I didn't really get any lags while playing. And now the final thing that I wanted to note was that the S23 Ultra will be getting 4 years worth of software upgrades, while the 7 Pro also gives 4 years, so when it comes to longevity, they're pretty much even. Now, both the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro has some really loud speakers that were pretty good whenever I use them. I would usually use them in a house whenever watching videos on social media or YouTube, and I didn't have to turn them all the way up because of how loud they were on the lower tiers of volume. But if I'm being honest, the S23 Ultra speakers are much better overall. They have more bass, the sound quality is better, and they're much louder, so when it comes to comparing both speakers, the S23 Ultra is the winner. And I also tested out the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro as my alarms, and I had no problem waking up from them. Both did a really good job when it comes to phone calls and notifications, and again, you won't really have a problem with either. And right here, I'm going to give you guys an idea of how the speakers sound.
Took a step or two there at the free throw line. Kobe back and drills the three.
Kobe yelling for the ball inside. That's big defensive team in the NBA. D'Angelo in all kinds of trouble. He's doubled up. Somehow finds Bryant with a bullet hook pass.
Now, the Galaxy S23 Ultra has a 200 megapixel main camera along with a 10 megapixel telephoto and periscope telephoto and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. The Pixel 7 Pro has a 50 megapixel main camera along with a 48 megapixel telephoto and 12 megapixel ultra wide. And for this category, I mainly want to let you guys judge since camera quality varies from person to person. Now, starting with zoom modes, both phones had a couple of different zoom modes. The S23 Ultra definitely had more, but I want to show you guys how each of them did so that you can see the quality, and I found them to be great when compared to each other, but again, I want to let you guys decide. Now, the shutter speed on the 7 Pro is much better. I decided to test it out by shooting a moving car, and as you can see, the 7 Pro not only was able to capture more shots, but it was also able to get them very clean, while the S23 Ultra took less shots. Now, next up, I want to show you guys how the camera performed in different environments, and the first environment that I will be starting with is daytime. Now looking at the outside photos, the selfies on the S23 Ultra were good, but couldn't capture my skin tone well. I definitely prefer taking selfies on my 7 Pro. Also, the sharpness on the S23 Ultra could be too much sometimes when compared to my 7 Pro, where the sharpening isn't overtaking the photo. And I also took some photos of random street objects, the sky, different aspects of nature, and I can honestly say that both phones held up very well in these environments, and I'm really impressed since the sharpness did a lot better with the main camera. Now taking a look at inside photos, both phones were able to capture everything very nice, and I found the pictures to be slightly less aggressive on the 7 Pro in terms of sharpness. And now when it comes to shooting video, both phones were really great, but I will say that based on my use with each, the S23 Ultra is a little bit better. You have many different modes and frame rates to choose from, but I prefer to shoot my videos in 4K at 30 frames per second because not only does it look good in 4K, but 30 frames makes it look smooth and realistic. And again, this is where the S23 Ultra wins. The video stabilization was really good. I shoot my videos with my phone, so whenever I'm shooting my subject, I can use everything handheld and the movements will be very smooth, which was very impressive. And for fun, I decided to try the stabilization to the max on each phone. And if I'm being honest, both phones were amazing, but I still preferred the S23 Ultra since the quality was a little bit better. So all in all, I would definitely say that the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro have really good video cameras that'll give you some consistently good shots. So if you're someone who wants to shoot content or you just want a solid camera, they definitely have got you covered. And also, here's some extra videos that I was able to get. So here's the final question. Which phone is better? The Galaxy S23 Ultra or the Pixel 7 Pro? Well, from an unbiased standpoint, I will say that the Galaxy S23 Ultra is not only better than the Pixel 7 Pro, but it's the best phone that you can buy right now. And it basically has everything that you would want in a great phone: great display, great software, great ecosystem, great battery, and I haven't had this much satisfaction with the phone in a long time. So if you are someone who does prefer the S23 Ultra, it's definitely a phone that you'll be satisfied with. The 7 Pro is a great phone as well, and it's my second favorite phone of the year. But again, based on my opinion, the S23 Ultra is just better. But there it is, you guys, my comparison between the S23 Ultra and 7 Pro. Now comment down below, which phone do you guys think is the best for you? And again, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.